Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PaperCircuit Podcast, or as we call it, PCPC. I'm your host, Gautam Godse, and together we explore new ideas and meet interesting people from all over the world. Today, my guest is my friend and classmate from college, Manoj Deshmukh. He has had a successful career in the computer industry for over 25, 30 years and has recently pivoted, as they say in the market, to making his hobby his full time gig. Yes, I'm referring to his new startup, Phosphor Pens, Phosfor pens, handmade fountain pens made painstakingly one at a time by Manoj himself. Hi, Manoj. Welcome to Paper
Hi,
Circuits. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Gautam. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's really nice to connect, and the reason for connection happens to be a mutual interest of ours. So it's really great to have that bonding moment again. So why don't you tell me something more about yourself, and then briefly about what happened after you graduated from PICT in 1990?
So yes, you know me from college days, and of course, after graduation, got into an IT job. And as you mentioned earlier in the intro, I was in IT for 20, 25 years, and I think suddenly one day I just decided to change course and get into pen making.
That's fantastic. Where did you work in IT? What companies did you work, and what kind of work did you do there?
So I think most of the career I spent in banking software.
Hmm.
That was majority of it, and I was in US for a while, and so before coming back to India, I worked in US in banking industry.
Okay, great. And when did you come back from the US to India?
It was around 2007 when I decided to come back.
Okay, so that
They
was a
were
while
offering.
ago. That was a long time ago. So you really decided. And what was the decision for that at that time? Why did you decide to move back?
I think it was mostly family, and
Hmm.
also there were increasing opportunities also in India at that time,
Hmm.
uh, and some attractive opportunities. And the company that I worked for in US was starting an India operation, so that was another opportunity for me to come back home with the family.
Yeah, that's really nice that you get both things established, and it must be nice for your family as well to be home and grow up in a familiar environment, so to speak.
Yep, that's right.
So now let's get into the main thing, right? So how did this hobby start? Because and that brings us to all these pens, because I got my first fountain pen when I was in fourth standard, like fourth grade, and it was a funnily enough it was a Chinese made hero pen, because at that time I think this was 1977, 78. Those were the rage, and I remember went with my father to this pen store on Main Street, and we went through all those Chinese hero pens, and it was pretty expensive. I think it was like 50 rupees. I don't remember that time, I was pretty small, but that was, I remember that. And I read somewhere that was also your first fascination. You got a Chinese hero pen. So tell me more about that. How did that all start?
Yeah, you're right. So fountain pens was also my hobby. I think one of my early pens were also some of the Camlin pens, if you remember that
Oh
those are
yes,
available.
yes, Camling, yes.
Camlin. And then later on, of course, the hero pens that came in the market.
Mhm.
So I also grew up using fountain pens. In fact, if I remember, I think I used them all the way through engineering college as well.
Mhm.
Uh, so it was just this fascination with fountain pens that drove me to sort of doing what I'm doing right now. Although pen using is one thing and pen making is something else.
Mhm.
It was takes a leap of faith.
Right. And so tell me more about the pen using, right? Because you, after college, you used your pen through college, but then did you continue doing that? Did you start collecting pens when you were, having a job and doing a career when you moved to the US? Did that hobby still persist?
Yeah, very much so. The hobby persisted in US. It was actually easier to buy some of the higher end pens
Hmm.
at that time in the US. So I definitely used to be buying whatever pens I could get my hands on.
Which one? Can you
Uh,
name some of those?
I had a Schaefer, I had Parker's,
Right,
uh,
right.
Not one of those very expensive ones, but it's
Yeah, I
one of the
remember
entry level ones. But
yeah, the first time I saw, I think Schaefer was, you remember Professor Mugat? He used to teach mathematics behind St. Vincent School. And all his alumni students who used to go to the US used to send him pens because he used to love fountain pens. And he always wrote and taught us with that. So my first Schaefer I saw was in his hand in 12th standard in 86. So yeah, those were
right.
like really, we used to like crave for those kind of pens back in India.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then did
So,
you start as a pen collector? Were you also interested in the mechanism, or were you just using it as a, as a user, as a collector?
I was mostly a user.
Hmm.
So, I would love to use them every day. And so, whatever I purchased, it was not more of a sort of a long-term collection perspective. It was just use. I wanted to use them every day. So, it was
So
for
when
user.
did so then how did this become serious? How did you switch from a user to like a creator, a builder?
So the story goes like this. I was actually visiting a store, a woodcraft store in Atlanta,
Hmm.
and I saw some beautiful material. I don't know if you have seen this, but there is pen material that has a circuit inside. It's an
Oh.
electronic circuit in, inside that is embedded on a tube. And I saw some of the material that they had in that store. And so I asked the store manager about what is this for and how is it
Hmm.
used, and if it's for pen making, how do you go about it? And he explained to me the entire process of pen making. And that kind of started the journey from that point onwards. I started looking into how do you make pens, from wood and from various other material. And it just got me more and more interested in the process of pen making.
And what year was this?
I think this was when I was visiting. I don't remember exactly, but must have been about 2010 or so, 2009, 2010, when I was visiting Atlanta at that time.
Okay, so you got to figure out okay how this is made, and then you came back to India, and then what happened?
So I did some more research, and it got really interested. So I actually purchased a very small lathe. These are called baby lathes. They're actually watchmakers lathes. They're really tiny, and they're primarily used for making watch parts. So that's how tiny these are. So I bought a small lathe, and in my bedroom, I just started exploring how I could use this small lathe to make pens from. And I think I managed making a few using that lathe.
And then how were your first experiments? How did you have some of those old the first models that you made? What did you base them on?
So I wanted to make wood pens because wood pens was something that was fairly uncommon in India. I had not seen a fountain pen made out of wood
Yeah,
in India, right? So I wanted to use wood, and what's easily available for us is the rolling pin that we use for making
I saw that.
garments, right?
Yeah,
So that's actually what I used. I got a
that
rolling
was
pin.
that was a very good lateral thinking move. Yeah.
Yes. So I got a rolling pin from the market, and used my small watchmaker's lathe to make a pen. And I posted about this pen on one of the Fountain Pen Network, online chats, and people liked it. And in fact, there is a lady from an island, um,
Hmm.
in I think in the Pacific, who liked this pen and actually ordered a pen from me.
Wow.
And that's how. So one of my first pens was called the Islander because she lived on an island.
Yes, that's the one
And
I've ordered. Like,
yes,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
And then when you were perfecting it, how long did you take? Like, how many rolling pins did you run through before you got like a good product that you're happy with?
So I think, that's something that I would say was a continuous process. I made the first one, made the second one, made some improvements, and I would say even today I'm continuously making some improvements into what I'm making. If I look back at some of the first pens I made, I could really see that there are areas where I could improve, and I think I've made those improvements over time. But I think that's a continuous process for me.
Yeah, I think for anything handmade and artisan like this, it's never perfection is never achieved because you always see the flaws in every perfect thing that you try to make and then do the next one
Exactly.
better. So that's, I think, a really great trait and learning that you get out of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So with all this going on, how was your family's reaction to all this? Did they say, "What are you doing? You are cluttering up my bedroom with lathes and wood shavings and wood pins and rolling pins." So what was that reaction like?
So I think, when I decided to jump into this full time, that was a bit of a shock.
Hmm.
But while it was a hobby, it was fine. Um, you know, but I think once the hobby turned into a full time profession, or when I decided to do that, that was definitely a shocker. But I think everyone got over it eventually.
So when was that? How many years was that ago that was?
So I started this in 2014
Hmm.
as a full time
Okay.
profession.
Okay. And what was the triggering point to say, okay, now I'm ready to quit my job and I can do this full time for the next possible, few years? What was that
Mhm.
triggering point? Was it the number of orders or was it just something internally you said, okay, now I'm more happier doing this?
I think it was a combination of a couple of things. One was that there was interest in what I was making,
Hmm.
which was very good, which was very positive. Um, and Also, if you look at in terms of my profession in IT, that was something that I was getting to a point where I was not really enjoying it, to be
Right.
honest. And
You
and
get burnt
so
out, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think it was a combination of all these things that led me to believe that yes, I could probably make a difference and do something in this field. And I think I've come a long way since then.
Oh yeah, definitely. So did you go about it formally, like being an IT person? I know we have a different way of thinking in that sense. So did you do like a business plan and like scope out places where you could set up your workshop, etc., or was it just ad hoc?
It was mostly ad hoc. I didn't spend too much time in doing any kind of business planning because if I look back, if I had done that, I probably would have never gotten into it.
That's
Um,
right.
so it was just jump in and let's see what happens.
So it's a project of passion. It's not like, okay, I want to make money out of this. It's like I like doing this, and if I make money, that's good.
Exactly. I think it's the passion that drives what I do, and I think as long as that continues, I don't see I don't have to look other way.
Right, right, right. And so then how did you build your community? How did you get your first initial customers? I know that you went on the forum and posted, but then how did you get the next one and the next one? And how do you end up with like a 2 year waiting list now?
So I think that's where the entire credit goes to my customers,
Hmm.
because whatever I am right now is it's all because of the customers and the faith and the support that they have given me. Um, Pen making and handcrafted pen making was something that was fairly nascent at that time in India. We had a
Hmm.
few pen makers who have been in business for many years. Um, but I think I found a niche. I started doing something that was uh, had not been done before in India, and so I found a lot of support from local pen lovers within the country as well, and of course internationally there is a huge base of pen lovers, pen users that's out there. So it in terms of marketing and in terms of what do you say expanding, I didn't have to take much effort.
Mm.
It happened. My customers definitely helped me in that regard.
That's so great because a customer-driven company, I think, will continue for a very, very long time. So, are majority of your customers outside India? What's the how would you say the breakup is between customers from India versus outside?
So when I started, majority of my customers were outside India.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think eventually people in India took notice. And I think over the last few years, even the number of users using fountain pens in India has grown up. And so now I think I have a fairly good mix of customers that are
Hmm.
locally in India as well as in the rest of the world.
So, how did the people from, let's say, Indian customers find you? Was it just online? Was there an article in local newspapers or online, etc.?
No, it was through these fountain pen forums because
Forums.
many of the users were also on the same forums, and it was word of mouth. One person telling the other, and there are quite a number of local groups as well within India now, of online groups or people meeting face to face.
Hmm.
So the whole thing is by word of mouth.
Okay. But that must be quite a task, right? Because I know that you are a one-person show, so you have to handle all the customer, queries and responses, and order details. And somebody wants something very custom. So how much time do you spend on that versus actually making the pens?
Yeah, this is where I think I have a big challenge and possibly an opportunity right now. I am very much a one man show. So as they say, I'm the CEO and I'm the janitor and everything
Yes.
in between. And literally that is the case. So um, it consumes a good part of my day
Hmm.
doing all those activities. Even standing in the queue at the post office for 45 minutes
Yeah. Takes
for
time. Yeah.
shipping takes time, right? um, so and that's why I think that there is this huge delay in delivering pens.
Hmm.
um, and handcrafted pens in general take time for making, so each pen can take at least a day, and some of them even take 3 or 4 days to make depending
Hmm.
on the complexity.
Hmm.
So
So do you work
that
on
that
one pen at a time, or do you work on multiple pens in parallel?
I generally work on one pen at a time.
Hmm.
I'm more focused on orders. And so if a customer orders 2 pens or 3 pens or 5 pens, I would finish that order and then move on to the next one. And generally when people are ordering, they don't order the same, same type
Right.
of pens. Each pen is different. So
Yes.
yeah, that's challenging.
So yeah, I mean, on an operational level, then you must be thinking now. I need to like get somebody to help me out with it. What's your expansion plans?
So I am looking for hiring help. But because of the whole pandemic situation right now,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's quite challenging at the moment to hire somebody. But I'm on the lookout.
That's great. And yeah, and that brings me to the pandemic situation. How did COVID affect your business, or if it did affect at all, over the last 12, 15 months?
It definitely affected my business. Not in terms of orders. Again,
Hmm.
thanks to my customers, many of them have been waiting longer and longer. But over the last year and a half, I lost a lot of time.
Hmm.
There were almost 2.5 to 3 months where I just couldn't go to my workshop.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I did lose a lot of time. But thanks to many of my customers who understood that aspect and waited and
Hmm.
still waiting.
So you did move out of your bedroom and into a workshop.
Eventually, yes, I did.
Okay.
It was just not that possible to do what I do in a corner of my bedroom. So yes, I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I did.
I'm sure the family must be relieved to not have that, noise and the clutter from that in house.
Yeah, definitely.
So then, when you go to the workshop and you're finishing job for the day, what's your day look like? What time do you start? What time do you finish? Or is it just ad hoc?
It's more ad hoc, and like I said, I have to stand in the queue at the post office for 30 minutes, 45 minutes at times. So it depends on what is planned for the day. and where I have to go. I also have to get sometimes the material, the
Material.
supplies. So it's a mixed bag.
So usually, like you finish in the evening. What time are you done usually working?
um, so if it's a normal situation, I generally finish by 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the evening.
Hmm.
But nowadays, because of the restrictions, I'm forced to come home early. So
Post.
that's another. Yeah, I mean, I'm losing almost 2 hours in a day,
Hmm.
and trying to start as early as possible, but it's challenging.
So when you're finished for the day, like what are you thinking at the end of the day, and how does it compare to when you used to come home from your IT job? How has that changed in your head?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Gautam. So I'm always thinking about something new.
Hmm.
I think one of the things that I've done over the years is I've innovated quite a lot,
Hmm.
and I'm offering a number of options, different kinds of filling mechanisms, etc. So I'm always thinking about something new. What could I do that's even more innovative than what I've done so far? And so that's always at the back of my mind.
So is that a big change from how you used to think when you come back from your IT job?
I think so. I think it was, the IT job, especially when I was in India, it was more people focused. It was most
Hmm.
people management, you know. So innovative, I think that part of me was not getting utilized.
Hmm.
Um,
And then is this one more fulfilling as well?
oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't wait to start my day, and that's the big difference.
I think that's a huge change because that's one thing that stuck with me because I'm a big and I was influenced by Steve Jobs quite a lot, and one thing he said was stuck with me is that every day when you get up and look yourself in the mirror, if you're not happy to go to the job on the third day, you should change your job. Right?
Absolutely.
Don't keep that too long, otherwise it is going to affect you, your family, everybody around you. So
Yeah.
that's great, and to have that passion to like, okay, I can't wait to get up and go to work is the best reward that you could have, at least in
Yeah,
my
and I
opinion.
think, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think what makes it even more satisfying is that when at the end of the day, what I do is whatever pens I finish, I take a photo and post it
Hmm.
on Twitter, and the customer who's ordered that pen gets that tweet saying, "Okay,
Hmm.
hey, here is your pen," and the reaction that I receive most of the times, that
That's
makes the day
priceless.
for me.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah, as they say. So how long do you want to keep doing this? Are you going to say, okay, this is what my career is or life is for the next whatever time?
Yeah, as long as I can physically keep on doing this, I intend to do it.
And do you feel that demand is increasing or decreasing? Or are you worried that, okay, in 3 years maybe nobody will use fountain pens? People are using all these digital notebooks, and the younger generation has no idea what a fountain pen is. So are you worried about that in the maybe not in the immediate future, but long term?
No, I'm not so much worried about that, because if I look at the demographic of my customer base,
Hmm.
I do get younger people um, as customers, and sometimes even college going kids, they ask me, "Sir, how much is your pen?" Well, I can't afford it right now, but maybe when I get a job, I will buy it.
Nice.
so, so that tells me that yes, there is the next generation
Hmm.
that's going to be there. Yeah.
That's good to hear. I hope that my kids, they're teenagers now, but hope and they never used a fountain pen. They've always used those ball pens, pilot pens, etc. But they have
Yeah.
really good handwriting, so at least that I am really proud of, that they still have can write in cursive. That
Yes.
is always the worry.
Mhm.
And then one of the question I had, like, do you feel
Mhm.
that at some point this might become a job and not a passion? Are you worried about that?
Um, Not so much, because I think if I turn this into a factory, then
Hmm.
this will become a job, and that's something that I definitely don't want to do. I think that passion is what drives what I do, and that passion has to continue. And
but
so, continuous innovation, looking at new things, that is something that
but then
I'll
what
have.
if you what if you get an offer? Let's say Camlin Pens makes you an offer saying, "Hey, we want to get the copyrights or whatever it is to your designs, and we want to manufacture them on a large scale, and they kind of buy you out, so to speak." So, are you like thinking like if something like that happens, what's your reaction going to be?
Yeah, I mean that would be a good exit plan. If
Hmm.
if that kind of an exit option comes up, I think it will be worth considering,
Hmm.
of course, because I'm sure age is going to catch up at some point, and
Yes.
it's yeah.
Okay, but then like are you still going to continue working with them, or you just like once the exit happens, you can retire, hopefully?
No, I think if the exit happens, I would definitely like to retire at that
Yes.
point in time. Yeah.
So, what do you do on the weekends, and how do you relax?
Oh man, that is I do a lot of research in different materials and ideas, and I'm fond of old pens and
Ah,
vintage pens,
vintage
and
pens.
there are actually some very interesting pens that were made uh, pre-war, post-war period.
Mm,
In the 1930s onwards, 40s onwards, and especially in the 50s and 60s, especially some of the German pens. There were some very interesting designs and ideas,
mm,
and some of those ideas disappeared over time.
mm,
But I'm trying to actually, bring those back. So one of them was this telescopic piston filler that Montblanc made in the
mm, mm,
50s,
mm.
and they only made it for a couple of years, and they stopped making it, and nobody has made it since then. But I was able to do it, and I've
Oh,
been
really?
offering. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. There is, in fact, on my website, there is a blog entry about telescopic piston
Mm.
filler.
So, is there an advantage to that versus the regular filler?
It almost gives you twice the ink capacity.
Oh, wow! So it keeps expanding. Yeah. Mm.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
I remember we had those pens. I think you had to pull a piston back and fill it in. So is something like that, or
It's a twist. It's a twist mechanism.
a twist mechanism? Hmm.
Yeah, but it's a regular piston is just a single lead screw. This
Hmm.
one has concentric lead screws, one inside the other.
Hmm.
So extremely challenging to make it. And but I did a lot of research, and finally I was able to make it.
Oh, fantastic! Maybe I should order my pen with that mechanism.
Ooh.
Cool. I forgot to ask you about the origin of phosphor. The name of the origin of phosphor pens.
Okay. So phosphor phosphor is the 15th element in the
Yep.
periodic table, and my birth date is 15th.
Ah, fantastic.
And so instead of calling it phosphorus, which didn't sound very interesting
Yeah.
because it's not a very nice element, but the word phosphor does mean phosphorus in I think it's one of the Scandinavian languages,
Hmm.
and it's kind of catchy. So that's why I chose phosphor.
That's great. It's a very catchy name and definitely stands out.
Yeah, even the logo that I've designed, that logo actually is a symbol that the alchemists use for phosphorus. So
Ah,
as the
okay.
basis, and then there is a pen in between and all, but
Indeed.
that's the basis of that
Okay,
logo.
that's good to know. So, Manoj, I usually end the podcast with three questions, and usually I get very interesting answers from people. So, my
Okay.
first question is, what do you wish you really understood?
You mean from what exactly?
Anything, what is it in life that you feel that you really understood?
Um, yeah, that's an interesting one. I think passion drives what you do.
Hmm.
I think I realized that after getting into this, and as long as passion is there, I think you can achieve a lot of things.
Good, good. That's a good question. And then, what do you wish other people understood about you?
Oh boy, that's I don't know how. I think if we look at it in the context of pen making, um, I wish people understood why it takes time. Because yeah, I mean, we have to look at it in that context. So yeah, if I think most people understand why it takes time for me to deliver these pens. But if it takes more than 90 weeks, sometimes people don't understand it, but most do.
That's good. And then lastly, what gives you confidence?
The fact that I can deliver, and the fact that people like what I deliver to them. I think that gives me confidence. It's the reaction that I get from the people. That is that really what builds my confidence, I believe.
Fantastic. Thanks, Manoj. With that, I would like to thank Manoj for spending time with me and exploring the fascinating world of artisanal fountain pens. Full disclosure, I've ordered 2 pens from Manoj, and hopefully I'll get them in the next couple of years. You can always order one for yourself on his website, phosphorpens.com. Beware, though, his current delivery time is for new orders is 2 years or beyond, but it's worth the wait. So, Manoj, best of luck and keep exploring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gautam. It was nice talking to you. Take care.